At 3 o'clock, we will officially begin the conversation.
Okay.
Did it pop up?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
What's
Aha.
Ah. Well, I'm like, turn
Nice to
volume
meet
down. Yeah, if you guys have your ringers on, that kind of stuff, this is a good time. Yeah, turn down for what?
Oh, we need to turn our volumes down.
I mean, you don't have to, but you don't want to be that guy,
Yeah.
It never fails. It
I
never
don't
fails.
wanna be
Nobody
that
ever
guy.
calls until you're in a meeting where you don't want to have your phone ring.
I'm always in a meeting with that guy.
Always, always.
Always.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I had my volume up.
Now I have that song in my head.
Oh
Oh gosh, I'm so used to doing Facebook stuff too. This is wonderful.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So if we click in,
Yeah,
and we enter, and then we just hit leave a comment.
I don't know why she didn't get wrinkled hair from everything. I know.
This is cool. We're gonna learn together.
We'll learn together.
Jonathan,
Yes.
do you prefer to go by Jonathan or John?
Probably.
Whatever's easy, but yeah, I like Jonathan.
Then I'm gonna go by Jonathan.
That's his Hebrew name.
I do like the Portuguese, Brazilian Jonathan.
Yeah.
Jonathan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Johanna.
Okay. We are just about ready. Mike, are you ready?
Yeah. You ready?
Go for it. Yeah, let's just go for it.
A few
We
seconds.
could wait a few extra seconds, but.
Lights, camera, action. We're back for your satisfaction from Action Business Furniture Studios is where it's happening. We have a special guest star appearance today from the All-American Merkel. You like that country intro? I know, I thought of it myself. Last but not least, most importantly, your guest, Jonathan Byron. Take it away, John.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, you're good. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome, Al.
Thank you very much. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, super excited to jump into some of this political government and
Absolutely.
I think one of the biggest challenges with all of us is like understanding how we can interact with elected officials. So
Right.
super excited to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
We'll go around this way and with
Yeah.
you, but we'll definitely jump into some exciting stuff.
Very
in a little
good.
bit. Somebody's got the volume up.
Mine's on.
Daddy Mike has his volume up. We'll start to my left. We'll do some introductions. Talk about yourself. Talk about who you are, but also we really like to broadcast and highlight events that are coming up. So if you have an event coming up, if you're aware of an event, you're going to be attending one, or you know that there's something coming up and you want to highlight that, shout that out. Otherwise, we'll introduce ourselves and we'll get this thing going.
All right, Rob Reuter with Idic Designs, and I am starting to work with small businesses on their platform. You've probably heard that, when you use somebody else's software, somebody else's environment, it's not yours, you're just renting. And I'm talking with small business owners who actually want to build their platform and own their content so that they can build a business that's sustainable. And what I'd like to talk to about events is a friend of mine, Sharice Sauer, who is a coach on Success Without Sacrifice, is running a speaker event in June and helping people who want to be more confident when they stand in front of groups or when they're speaking to their stakeholders. They want to have more confidence. And so she's got a great event coming up mid-June, look for Cherie Sauer with Success Without Sacrifice Coaching.
Awesome. Excellent.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Debbie Ramirez. I work with Champion Empire, where we help business owners who are stressed out, overwhelmed, and stuck to get a specific personalized plan for their business, and then to get paired with a deep bench of experts with real life experience in the specific areas of business that they need to grow in, so that they can take off and build the dream that they have in mind and live the life that they were created for. So when it comes to events, we don't have anything specific coming up at this time, although we oftentimes do. But I will give a second shout out to that. I love that. And Cherie is awesome. And the event that she's preparing looks like it's going to be fantastic. So highly recommend checking that out.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Matt and Jonathan, for giving me this opportunity. It's the first time that I've done something of this nature, and I'm very excited. Very cool to be out here doing this. My name is Adam Bingham. I don't think I said that, but now I did. I am both a teacher and also I've done tons of theater stuff, musical stuff. I love the singing side of things. And I've had the opportunity with Mike to do a little bit of filming items. So I'm very grateful that he gave me a call and said, come on over. So I enjoy the opportunity to discuss both some geology, the impacts of things that are happening, especially out here in Spokane, water issues, stormwater drainage issues, other problems with drilling your wells and getting clean water versus not clean water, and how we can take care of those things. But I also love the theater side, and I'm going to highly recommend you come out to Coeur d'Alene Summer Theater. We've got some great shows coming up this year. Hello Dolly, Anastasia, and She Loves Me. And they are great shows. I am excited to be a part of two of them so that we can get you out there, make you laugh a bit, maybe make you cry just a little bit, but to have a good time. And thanks again for letting me come out here and be a part of this.
Do you ever
Very
get comp
excited.
tickets?
I do get some comp tickets.
Maybe you can donate them to the group.
I may have some extras that I could look into donating.
We do prizes from time to time.
There
we go.
Mm.
Excellent. I like it.
So there could be a prize.
A little prize, yeah.
We can get you out there to enjoy and have some fun. And yes, we will sing right at your face.
Okay. I love it. I
I'm
love it.
counting on it.
I shall look into that just for you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Hi, my name is Meredith Albrecht. I am the owner of Mock Avenue Virtual Services. I do virtual assistant for small businesses and course creators. I also do video editing and create promo videos. So I'll put my link on there. And so nice to be here.
Take
Thank
it
you so
fast. Meredith CV.
There we go.
There we go. And I need to find the link again so I can put my information on there.
All right.
Lisa.
Lisa.
Lisa Miller, and I'm doing today's Lisa Miller's Legal Minute. Take and pass. And does anybody want a U.S. Constitution? No charge.
I have a few.
So today we're going to learn about the FTC and phony 5-star reviews online. The FTC is coming down hard. They have phony reviews in their sites. And the reason is because of the proliferation of AI. AI writes phony reviews in detail. And there's one particular company, Rytr, R-Y-T-R, that got into particular trouble, got into the FTC's bad, naughty list. And so the FTC has recently settled a case with them through an order for them, but they are coming after AI and those sort of false reviews or fake references and so forth. And if you'll see, we're carrying paid ads now in the Legal Minute. And here's John Byron's ad, and it says, I would recommend John, a satisfied customer. We don't know who that is, but John Byron, are we sure that this is not AI generated?
Right.
I got it right off of your site, and so of course I can't check anything,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure you even put it up,
Right.
right? It could have been some third party that was carrying it just as a platform for
Sure.
you. So I just wanted to point out that for small businesses that are using AI, you need to be careful that your AI tools are in conformance with the FTC's rules about transparency, understanding where your AI generated content comes from, how it's generated, how you're using it. For more information, I think we're going to be putting up the Legal Minute on your site, yes?
Yes, we can absolutely do that,
So
and
for more
trying to figure out how to get Al's notes onto the feed. We'll get to it's not working the way I hoped, so
Gotcha.
we'll figure
And
that out.
I have a special announcement. I am a candidate for position 1, city council. I'm hoping to serve with our esteemed guest, His Honor, Council Member Merkel.
Excellent.
I kicked off about a week ago. The filing week closed. I slid in under the wire, and I'm asking all of you for your votes. I am focused on public safety. I'm focused on fiscal responsibility, and especially supporting small businesses, the backbone of our economy. So I ask for your vote. Position 1, Lisa Miller.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's a pretty good segue. I'm really glad you brought that up, Lisa. I will be talking about local elections here at the end, and congratulations
I'll
for
be
stepping
happy
into
to
that.
answer any questions you may have, Congressman.
But before we get there, let's talk a little bit. So today, what I wanted to give everybody, especially business folks, an overview of kind of the tax situations coming up, taxes that are being proposed by the different administrative sections of our local government, state government, and other pieces. Just kind of give you an overview so that you guys know what's coming up, because this is going to be a tax-heavy year, which, in my opinion, is unfortunate. But nonetheless, let's talk about what some of these taxes are. The first thing I wanted to talk about before we get into this is to explain that taxes are far more complicated than people realize that they are. There are many taxes that are dual limited, which means that they might impose a percentage or a dollar rate per $1,000 of value, but it's actually also limited by the budget of that municipality, and it's limited also by the total amount that the tax is allowed to collect. So what that means, specifically as a good example, when you're looking at school property taxes, that's where you can really see some complications, because a lot of times you vote on a tax rate per $1,000. But what you're actually voting on is a total amount of the collection of that tax. So that might be, let's say, $100 million. And then what ends up actually happening is they say, we're going to break that up over the 4 years that this tax is authorized for. So for the first year, they do 25, 25, and 25. This is a simple example. So when they actually come to that first year, when they're actually collecting that tax from you, you might have voted for a rate of 47 cents per $1,000 or whatever it is, but you might actually end up paying a much less rate if property values have risen, because they can only collect up to $25 million, and then they proportionally disperse that amongst the properties that exist in the locality. Now, if that all sounds really complicated, it is. And it gets even more complicated when you deal with municipality budgets, because municipality budgets can actually be increased or decreased based on their estimation of how much sales tax is going to come in. But it's also limited to only an increase of 1% a year. But they can bank those percentages. So in other words, this is really complicated stuff. It's really hard to figure out how taxes work. But I will say this, that in general, taxes are a percent, okay? In general.
Why do they feel so high?
That's a great question.
Because everything you're saying makes perfect sense and sounds very thoughtful and
Right.
analytical, and yet it doesn't feel that way.
That's why I was saying that as a percent, right? That's why they feel so high, because as a percent, they increase with the amount of income that people make. Sort of. Again,
Right.
I'm
Loosely
simplifying the issue, right? But that can make it feel like you're paying more taxes all the time, right? Now, we also live in a state, Washington State, that is a very unique taxed atmosphere. We don't have an income tax, which, a lot of people are opposed to income taxes. Some people are for income taxes. But one thing about income taxes is it generally sets kind of a regular tax rate that you pay that comes out of your income. So you don't see it as much. And then you have usually in income tax states, not always, California, our good friends down there are notorious for not for taxing you every which way. But usually you have lower sales tax, you have lower property tax, you have lower fees in income tax states. In a state like Washington State, where we don't have an income tax, essentially they have to tax you for every single one of those things at the fullest amount that they can to be able to recover those services. Now,
there's some reason behind that. If you think about it kind of from a philosophical standpoint, that means that when you're paying your taxes for a specific thing, it's tied to that specific thing. So ideally, you would say, okay, automobile tabs are tied to that specific,
And
you
that
know,
can't then
area.
go to the general fund? It can't pop into the general fund?
That's a great question. It shouldn't.
And yet,
That's not always the way that it goes down.
because I think that happens with like marijuana tax and.
It certainly does. It certainly does. You know, there are a lot of specific taxes like that. Marijuana tax is a great example of a tax that there was what was
The
originally
lottery
promised.
tax?
Lottery tax, yeah.
Gas tax.
The gas tax. You guys are pointing out all great examples of where the government originally says one thing and then the execution turns out to be a little bit different than that. So
Does that make the tax illegitimate?
you know, that is a great question. That's one that's sorted by the courts. In my mind, yes, it does make the tax illegitimate. I think that that's something that's important for when you're looking at elections, when you're looking at the candidates that you're voting for. Their opinions on how these things work really, really do matter. Because while we can sort of say that, oh, the courts will settle some of these things, the courts are very slow. They're also very reticent to get involved in things.
I don't know how expert they are in tax.
That's right. And ultimately, the opinions of the people that you elect are usually going to rule how these taxes come down to you, whether you think it's illegal or not illegal. So that's why it's so important to really talk to your local candidates. We're going to come back to that. And Lisa's a great local candidate.
I'm right
example.
here. Lay it on me.
But let's talk about some specifics for here in the Spokane area, because I think that that's really very important for Spokane business owners right now to know what's coming down the pike from different municipalities. So I'm going to start with Spokane Valley. So Spokane Valley traditionally has been a very low tax city. Unfortunately, in very recent history, over the last 3 to 4 years, we've kind of bucked that trend and raised a lot of taxes that I think can be questioned to various extents.
Al, I'm going to just cut you off real briefly. If
Right.
you're watching at home, I did post a comment with a picture of what we all have in the room. Val, you just walked in. If you want a copy of this, this is what Al is working off of. Just in case, for those of you that are like me, like to follow along with your eyeballs as well as your earballs.
Right.
All right, go ahead.
The first one, which I thought was a strange little adventure, is the stormwater tax. So Spokane Valley increased the stormwater tax 200% in 2022. It was very kind of a strange communication how that increase happened. Essentially, the city had not raised its stormwater tax since 2006. And in the intervening time, apparently everybody forgot to check to see if things were breaking or if that was enough money to fix the stormwater things. Turned out it wasn't.
It has to come from that fund. It can't come from like a general maintenance fund or.
It can, yes, but
You don't want that?
Well, I do, but that doesn't seem to be what the city wants. But so the city hired a consultant to go out and evaluate the stormwater needs for the city.
And where did the consultant's fee come from? Which
That came
account?
from the general fund, and in fact, the consultant's fee was $1 million, which was more than the entire year's allotted amount of this tax. But anyway,
Wow.
the consultant came back with a very strange recommendation that I didn't understand. He said, well, if we raise the tax by about 60% to $45 a year, we will be able to cover all of our needs. But if we raise the tax to 200%, then we'll be able to cover all of our needs and the future.
Future.
And his fee.
Right. And his fee. So that is unfortunately what the council chose to do. I personally would have just, done what was needed, and then
I hope they give a little bit more detail than complete vague future.
The detail was that he expected that Washington State would pass all these different additional things in the next couple of years, which would require more changes. That
Like regulatory things. that
right,
expensive to
regulatory
comply with.
changes. Yep, that didn't end up being the case. We're still 3 years on, and those changes have not come into place. But the tax did come into place, and there
Is
have
there
been.
a lot of surplus now?
That's a great question. I'm really you're nailing some great questions, Lisa. There was a great surplus, but then the city spent a good deal of stormwater funds on a project that they called the Stormwater Project, which was the Sprague Road Diet, where they eliminated one of the lanes on Sprague, and ostensibly that was for stormwater, but it also used up that surplus before anybody could ask any big questions about what are they going to do with that surplus. So that's
Now we know.
And
that's
this
a
was in,
great
this
question.
was in general funding, or did they have it set aside for specific use?
The stormwater fund is set aside for specific use,
Okay.
but you know, frankly, every road that the city has a stormwater element, whether it's gutters, whether it's dry wells, whether it's curbing, many things. And so we could have really dispersed that fund, those funds to general maintenance for a lot of streets. That's not what happened. But you know, that's one specific tax that was raised recently that I think was a little bit questionable. Another one raised last year, again without a vote of the people, was a $20 license plate tax. And if any of you guys have registered your cars in the valley this year, you will have found that $20 fee increase that was imposed by the city. Ostensibly, this fee increase was to help pay for plowing. We didn't have a whole lot of plowing last year.
How many plants do we have?
We have
one.
we have
There's not
about
a lot of plowing.
we have about 4, but when we have to do an all city plow, we hire graders to do the plowing. You're going to get me into a real deep hole of like talking about that. So let's just skip that for now, because that's an interesting point.
Next time.
Yes, I'm happy to talk about that at a different time. But for right now, let's keep on it with the $20 tax increase there. You know, I would say that tax increase, what was really interesting about it is at the beginning of last year, when I took office, we found that we were 30 officers short. And they actually found this out before I took office, just, you know. But I mean, they reported it when I took office. And so they actually took all the money from this tax increase to pay for 10 extra police. So they said, then we got a grant for those 10 extra police. So I'm not really sure what this money is doing these days, but it's a $20 fee that everybody pays on every car registration every year. So that's great.
I want to jump in here with a few things.
Yeah.
Because I relatively recently, I was living in the county, technically, still felt like and this is not the valley, this is Spokane City, but
Sure.
similar. And I moved to a property that was just inside city limits. So like now
The Spokane City.
correct. So
Yes.
now I'm a city boy again.
Yeah.
And I went to pay my tabs.
Yep.
And it popped up how much I was going to have to pay.
Yep.
And it said, if you have to correct your address. And I was like, oh, that's right, I moved. So I changed my address, and boom,
There's
I think
the
it was $40, whatever it
Yes.
was. Like, all of a
Spokane
sudden.
City has a much higher fee. It's about $40.
And so then I was left with a dilemma. Do I keep the wrong address for a little while? That's neither here nor there. I did
Right.
the ethical thing, I
Right.
promise.
I was going to say, I'm sure you did the right thing.
Absolutely, 100% the right thing.
Right.
The right
Right.
thing.
The right
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
That's
The
right.
thing that was correct.
That's
At
right.
the time.
Yeah.
The thought that I had though, as you were sharing that, and I think this is like, I want to keep this, like you and Lisa are great. You guys speak a shared language, and I'm like, I'm a little bit lost.
Right.
So bringing this to the whole table, I've been going to my kids' PTG meeting.
Yeah.
And the finance person, the treasurer
Yeah.
talks, and I'm just like, what? Like,
Right.
line item? What?
Right.
Like I'm no dummy. I know what a budget is. I know
Sure.
how that stuff works, but like maybe shed a little bit of light on this for those of us that aren't sitting in these meetings. Like, number one, how does this
Yeah.
process, like you're there, you're seat number 3.
Yeah.
How much sway do you, like, are you able to be like, well, hold on a second, or like, is there like politics to that?
Yeah.
Obviously.
I'm glad you asked that question.
And then more importantly, like, how do I,
Yeah.
as not being involved currently, how do I have a voice in that conversation?
Absolutely. So let me start with the first part first, about how much influence an individual council member has. I voted against all of these taxes, all the ones that I could vote against, and the other ones that I'm talking about soon, I lobbied against with the state government, and they all passed. So that's about as much influence as I have as an individual council member. There's a lot of things in Washington State that restrict our ability to, I would say, function as a government in some ways. You know, for instance, it's very difficult for me to talk to my co-council members outside of a council meeting. There's this law called the Open Meetings Act that essentially says that anytime that you have more than 4 council members, that's a quorum, and that makes it a public record, and you have to have it announced like a week beforehand, and you have to have all this stuff, you know, available for public to see what you guys are talking about. Now, then you say, oh, okay, well, then why don't you just talk to 3 of them? Well, the question here is that with the Open Public Meetings Act, the state legislator thought of that possibility, and so they passed some sub points to that act, which basically says they prohibit what's called a run-on meeting or a serial meeting, which essentially means that if I talk to council member number 1 on the phone about this thing, and you know, that sounds really good, and then he talks to council member 2 about this thing, and then I talk to another council member about this thing, well, now there's 4.
Wow.
And so you have to be very cautious about that. So in other words, it's very difficult to kind of, you know, there's a lot of assumption from, I would say, the general populace that there's a lot of backroom discussion and that we can, you know, figure things out before meetings. That is not the case.
Do you guys do advisory stuff? Do you have advisory committees that you can get together with? Are they open to the public? Are they closed?
You guys are asking the greatest questions, the right questions. So Spokane Valley has 2 committees. They have the Public Safety Committee and the Governance Committee. Both are currently closed to the public and closed to any council members who are not on those committees. That is something that I myself brought up. I think that it would be much better if those were open to the public. I think it would also be much better if we had more subcommittees, as Spokane City does, to be able to debate and talk about some of these issues in a more free manner. That hasn't happened yet here at Spokane Valley, but that's a great question.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a great question. But like I say, what I was trying to get to is that it really does matter to come to Spokane Valley council meetings, to your city council meetings, because what you're seeing at that council meeting is, generally speaking, the entire banana. That's it. There's not a behind the back meeting where, you know, something else got decided, or, you know, there's not more information that these council members have about the thing than you have. In fact, none of that is the case. So coming to that council meeting really kind of gets to your second point of how can you be a part of this? How can you influence these issues, right? So there's 2 big ways that you can influence, well, 3 big ways that you can influence this issue. The first is coming to those council meetings. We have public comments during those council meetings. Those comments are important. Currently, our council has a history of not listening, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't speak, because, you know, there are other people who listen to those. The rest of the public listens to those, you know, and that's kind of how you build a movement.
Could I then discuss something in the lobby with other people from the audience?
You absolutely can.
So there's no limits on the individuals discussing
That's right.
things.
The public, you as the public can do anything. And in fact, there's no limitation on what you can discuss with a council member. So just like I'm here today discussing with you guys, you know, about different issues that are going on in the city, we can discuss anything that's going on in the city, you and I, and we can have those open conversations, and you can tell me, Al, I want you to vote for this, or I don't want you to vote for this, or I think this is a good idea, or this is a bad idea. In fact, I would say 70% of the things that I bring up at council come from citizens. I am regularly talking to constituents all over the valley through many different means, and I bring that stuff up to council. Again, I can't speak for my fellow colleagues, but I certainly do that.
And I'm going to not play devil's advocate, but to an extent play devil's advocate. So you said you voted no for some of these taxes.
Right.
If I was a fan of that tax and flip the script,
right,
you were the in the majority, and I'm like, stop voting no. I want that tax.
Yeah.
is that a conversation? How do you, I mean, obviously we're all people, so
Yeah.
like, I could be a person to a person, but what's the likelihood that those conversations would lead you to say, yeah, I'm actually gonna vote in favor of this tax that I personally
Let me
don't agree with?
Let me give you an example. I would say, at least, again, this is where it really comes down to who do you elect, right?
Yeah,
Because you want to elect people to where that likelihood is high.
got it.
But I will tell you that about 4 weeks ago, at the city, we had a proposal for a resolution to make Spokane Valley a non-sanctuary city. Now, I don't have a problem with us being a non-sanctuary city. I am very supportive of ICE, and I think that, like the deportations, I think that people who are here illegally should not be here. But that resolution was empty. And inside that resolution, it was basically, we put a title on it, and then down below it was like, but we're going to do everything that Washington State says, which Washington State basically mandates that we are all sanctuary cities. So to me, if I had not been contacted by literally hundreds of residents to tell me that they want me to vote in favor of this, I would have voted no, because I don't like empty resolutions. But I did. I was contacted by people, and I even said so right on the dais. I said during the vote, and one thing that if you do attend council meetings, I generally always say why I'm voting for something or why I'm voting against something. I think that that's good practice in your elected officials, because that's how are you going to know, right? Unless they tell you. And I said, I think that this resolution is empty. I think that it's meaningless. I think it's a waste of time and resources to write it, but I'm going to vote for it because a great deal of people came to me and said that they want me to support this. And I think that it is the general want of the Valley to support that thing. So I would say, to answer your question, it's up to that council member to assess whether this is what the people that you represent want, if they're doing their job.
Yes.
Yeah, and if they're doing their job well,
Hard to agree over there.
that's right. If they're doing their job
Even
well,
if we
they
disagree on some things, the fact
That's
that
right.
as the council member, you are there to do what they are asking or telling you to do.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's what I'm agreeing to. Cool.
That-
People are actually using you appropriately.
Right. That is my philosophical position. But I will say that there are other politicians whose philosophical position is that they were elected to make their decisions on their own, and they're going to do what they want to do. I don't agree with that position. I like I say, I
But
think
they're more
that
didactic. They vote along party lines. I am a conservative. I therefore vote in a certain conservative way, the way
Right.
conservatives expect me to do.
Right.
So I don't think they're particularly tuned in to
Right.
the nuances, right? They have like a policy approach or a program approach, and that's legit, right? People
Can
elected
be.
them for a reason.
It can be. You're right. That is a third reason why people vote the way that they vote is they just, generally say, like, I'm in this party, and so I've got to vote with this party. I would say that at the city council level, that's supposed to be less true. I mean, certainly at the state level, that is much more true. At the state level, you'll find that people stick to party votes almost 99% of the time. Like, it's very rare that you have somebody vote against party at the state level. And there's good reasons for that. Essentially at that state level, you know what I mean? Like, you're really trying to support a big platform, whereas at the local level, at your city council level, you're talking about 7 people, so at the state level, if you're 1 out of 50 who votes against a party thing, there's 49 people who are going to target you and get really mad. At the city level, if you're 1 out of 7, I mean, there's 6 people who are going to target you and get really mad. Let me tell you.
I don't know.
Yeah, how ask me how I know. But so does that kind of answer?
Yeah. So the follow-up then would be, and I'm just even thinking, like, in my mind, I was like, oh, I'll just go talk to Al.
Yeah.
More likely this is going to be an email. And I think we've all gotten like that email from somebody that's like, copy and paste this and send it to your representative, to your district or whatever,
That does happen, yeah.
And so in those cases, if you got flooded with 100 emails that all came out in support of that particular resolution, even so to say, but the reality is that the vast majority of people maybe even felt the same way you did, but they weren't on the opposite side of the campaign. They didn't even know this was going on.
Sure.
What would be, and I don't even know the question I'm asking necessarily here.
Can I take a
please,
stab?
jump in, yeah.
Can I take a stab at that, because it was the questions coming up. So I respect you changing, and I mean, personally, I agree. If there's not something behind something, why pass it?
Right.
Because we have enough laws on the books.
That's right.
That just don't serve a purpose, and we never go back and, conservatism never change anything.
Right.
Well,
that's one kind of conservatism.
Yeah. But what I am an advocate for is we need a more representative way
That's right.
of being able to weigh what is really going in this direction. So
Definitely.
my story goes way back into the 90s, when there was a big push on lowering taxes. Everything was cut taxes,
Sure.
cut taxes, and
Read
there
my
was,
lips.
there
No
was
new
a
taxes.
there was a big wave in Eastern Washington that swept in. We're going to cut all these taxes, and it cost me more. And the reason it cost me more is they were so adamant about cutting state taxes that my federal taxes went up.
Oh, you don't want that.
Because if I'm going to pay taxes, I would rather support the state
Sure.
than to
feds.
ship it to the federal.
That's right.
And so there was no look at what is the impact
That's right.
of this. And and then we have the north-south corridor,
Sure.
which never gets its funding because it's all going over to the
Supposedly
to the
it's
west
funded this year.
side. Right.
Saw that before.
but
Hey, we can see that it has been getting some work done on it.
It
Yeah.
has been, yeah. It has been.
But somewhere, and this is why I'm not a party voter either,
Sure.
because to me, party line takes over, and you have minorities that begin to wield unfair power
Yeah.
over the people, saying, "Hey, I want my potholes fixed.
Right.
I don't,
What
that's
potholes?
that's my issue."
I don't have any
That's
potholes.
I know. I heard a certain comment about how Spokane Valley, takes care of these potholes, and then I went out and ran into a pothole
Yeah, it does,
in the
yeah.
valley, and I was going,
Yeah. This year we eliminated the local roads program. Anyway, I digress.
But
I can explain.
But part of the ongoing conversation I want to start having is,
Yeah.
how at one time in this country, we had a very small population,
Yeah.
and we had people that knew, until you came to the event a few weeks ago, I had heard of you, but I'd never met you or seen you.
Sure.
And that's what we have is we mark something on a ballot, and then we have no idea what it is. So
They show up every week,
How-
and everyone's welcome. I mean,
Well,
just walk in, there isn't
right.
even a sergeant at arms.
That's
I mean,
that's
you
not
could,
true.
yeah, you could
Yeah.
come in with whatever, the crossbow. I mean, it's completely open process.
Attack cane would be.
Just real quick disclaimer, we are not advocating that anybody bring weapons to city
I'm sure
council.
it's been done, I'm sure it's happened.
Well,
So anyway,
yeah, I think that's really an excellent question, and I really have to say that this is actually, you're asking this as an elected official, but I want to charge all of you, everybody who's out there watching this, business owners, everybody else. This is really a question for you, because ultimately, look, as a candidate, I put my phone number out there, I put my email address out there. Lisa did as well when you registered. I expect.
And it's on here too.
That's right. I expect phone calls from people, and I take phone calls from people. I know for a fact that there are other elected politicians and candidates alike who absolutely refuse to take any phone calls or answer any emails ever, or only will answer the phone calls of the people that they know and the emails of the people that are their buddies, things of that nature. I make it a point of pride to answer emails from everybody, including people who write to me very nasty emails sometimes, and I'll pick up the phone. I'll talk to you. I get yelled at on the phones from time to time. I've gotten yelled at in grocery stores from time to time. And to me, that is important.
I would pay money to see that. What grocery store was that?
Rosars
Is that
over
right?
here, yeah.
Plug for Rosars there. Food at a show.
That's right.
Dinner at a show.
So to me, it's important. And I guess what I'm trying to say is for you, the voting public, I would like that each and every one of you go find those phone numbers, which you can find very easily on the county elections website. You can see everybody who's registered, and pick up the phone and try and call your candidate. Try and text that candidate. If they answer, talk to them. If they don't answer, maybe give them a couple days, maybe try again. But if they really never come back to you at all, I mean, that should be a point of consideration for whether you will elect that person. And then once don't just stop at the election, right? Because it's a lot easier to answer phone calls and when we need something from you, i.e. your votes. But you should do that also when they're in office. Call them up, say, hey, what's going on? I just want to talk to you. I want to sit down. I want to meet with you. I want to have 5 minutes of your time to talk on the phone, because that is a great way to find out whether that person is going to be responsive, whether that person's going to care, whether that person's going to listen or not.
No, that's interesting. And Val walked in. You didn't get a chance to introduce yourself, but welcome, Val. Val and I are realtors. And I recently have started talking to people that I know that are working with a realtor, and they're complaining about how unresponsive they are.
That's right.
And how, all of this stuff. And I'm like, listen, like, you started working with a realtor. You're not married to them. Like,
That's right.
If someone's not taking good care of you, there's an option. Now, in real estate is different than government. So talk about if you were my representative. Am I even saying that correctly?
Yes.
And I did this. I tried to reach out. You didn't respond. I emailed you. Obviously, I don't have to vote for you next time around, but
That's right.
How would I, as an individual, how could I potentially say, hey, wait a second, this guy's not doing what we want him to do, and potentially get that person out?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought this up, because if you remember a little while ago, I said there are 3 ways
Yes.
to talk to a politician, and I talked, the first, showing up to council meetings; second, contacting them individually. The third way is kind of the most. I don't have a better term for this, so I'm going to say it. It's kind of the most FU way, which is vote them out of office.
Yeah.
Because that is your chance as citizens to speak.
Well, that's what happened to Arnie.
That is what happened to Arnie, the person who I ran against, and he was the longest. He was the incumbent.
He owned that seat.
That's right. He was the longest serving incumbent in Spokane Valley history, 13 years in the city council.
Wow.
And I beat him 3-1. But so you're talking about, how do we get the word out? How do we talk to people? Well, look, it's not as hard as you think. Posting on social media is a great tool. There is a lot of ability to post on social media and get the word out that way. And I do think that you should. But I think even more important than that is talking to your friends, family, and the people that you know. For every single person that you tell, this is a person I tried to get a hold of, and they didn't even respond. They didn't answer. They didn't give me anything back. That person will tell 3 other people. That's really what the locality is all about. You can also come back to that city council meeting and say, I sent this guy an email, and he's never said anything back to me. He's never responded. He's never, come back to me. And I don't think that that's okay. I think that my representative should represent me. And I completely agree. That's how I feel. But like I say, this isn't a requirement of this office. This is a philosophical question for you, the voters. Who do you want to be in that office? Do you want somebody to be in that office who basically says, don't bother me and I'm going to do whatever I feel like? Or do you want somebody to be in that office who says, hey, I work for you and I'm ready to come work for you whenever it is, wherever it is, be there at your beck and call, because that's what service is about. And that's your choice as residents.
Okay, so here's a logical transition.
Yeah.
And because we put in the notes that we're going to also talk about getting involved in government, like
Right.
actually running. And I think you're a great example of, and I feel like you and I have talked about this, like you were just dissatisfied with how things were going, and you're like, in order to make the change that I want to see, Rob, to your point, like this, like, and this is where I get like kind of like, I don't want to get involved,
right,
to that level. But you decided, I'm going to go, I'm going to run for. And so on the one hand, the question would be like, could we just pick somebody that we're like, I really like Val, and I think he would do a great job. Let's all vote for Val. Sorry, Val, I'm throwing you under the bus. You're up. No, just kidding. But if somebody did want to say, hey, I want to take that step, I want to get involved and be on city council, that kind of thing, maybe talk about your process or more generically.
School board is open now, right? Aren't there a whole slate of candidates for school board? A lot of people are parents.
There are, although I mean, at this point, we've passed the registration, so if you haven't registered already,
terms, right?
Yeah, there will be more terms. So and Lisa, of course, will be a great person to talk to about this as well. But I would say that
The jury is still out.
the first point of process, if you are planning to run, is to look in your community and to see what do other people in your community care about, and talk to the people in your community. That is the most important thing, because again, philosophically, my standpoint is that's who we should represent. So by going around and talking to different communities, whether it's church groups, whether it's your local cribbage crew, or or pool league, or whatever it is, go talk to those folks and sit down with them and say, what's going on with you? Because whatever reasons you have for running are important, but you got to remember that this job isn't about, like I said, it's not about you. It's about what everybody else wants and what everybody else thinks. You might find that something that you really care about isn't something that other people care about. For me personally, I was really concerned about the way that our city was developing. I was really concerned about how many apartment complexes were going into places that didn't make sense for those apartment complexes, whether that was because there wasn't enough road service there wasn't enough parking there, or it wasn't close to any kind of amenities, or it was smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood that didn't have any sidewalks. Whatever that reason was, I was concerned about that. When I went out and talked to different neighbors and different church groups and different people, I found that everybody was concerned about that has been a major change that's been happening here in Spokane Valley for years, that people were really concerned about. And so that kind of brought some fuel to my fire of running. But even through that, I found a whole slew of other different issues that I wasn't even aware of. I found out that my opponent was dead set on removing the senior center from Center Place here in Spokane Valley, and he wanted to get rid of that senior center because he just thought that it'd be better if we didn't have them. And as you guys can imagine, there was a lot of seniors who did not share that opinion. So that was an issue that I picked up just from talking to different people. Then I started communicating on social media about the ideas that I was finding, about what people were telling me about, and that's kind of like what grew into a brand of, hey, I'm going to take a stab at this. Now, this wasn't my first time running. My first time running was in 2016, so I actually ran 3 times before I was elected. So don't quit if you don't make it the first time. That's one thing that's important to say.
Why are you looking at me? I'm planning to win, by the way.
I think that you have a very good shot in your seat, but
You're so handsome.
but yeah, so I think that's what's really important, is to remember that running for office, whether it's a school board position, city council position, state representative, president, whatever it is, you're not running for you. You should be running for everybody else. Everybody in your community, everybody in your county, everybody in your state, whatever it is. And so you should be deriving your platform from everybody else, and maybe putting in the bits and pieces. One thing I will say that it's good for a candidate to do, you'll find that people are often discontent with things, like going back to this apartment thing. Everybody's like, oh, we don't like it. Okay, that's great. And you can get that general sense of we don't like it. But what you as the candidate need to put in is, what are we going to do about it? Because most of the time people, they end it, we don't like this. We want something different. Okay, well, you can't just be like, it's going to be different. You know what I mean? You have to come up with a platform of ideas that you can represent to those people that say, here's how we can fix it. That's what you bring to the table as a candidate when you're running. You bring those solutions. Excuse me. So I think that's really important, but I'll let Lisa answer some of this for her own experience.
But before we leave you, I have one last question.
Sure.
You said you've been called a lot of things. What's the worst thing you've been called?
I don't think that we're ready for television on that.
This is not a family broadcast.
We do try to keep it relatively family friendly.
No, I've been called some bad things, mostly by my colleagues at the city council. But
Well, that's protected political speech.
sure is,
Constitutional rights.
sure is. I'm not taking away their rights to do it.
Well, I think that you're right about, we need to have some solutions, we need to be thoughtful about it, and we have a limited budget. I mean, the world is a limited place, and the budget, finance is always the rate limiting factor. So we need to look at efficiency, we need to look at leaning into technology, we need to look at ways that we can do more with less. And I was thinking about the stormwater analysis. I'm not an expert on water or stormwater or streets, right? I just drive on them and, live in a city like a person, but that's all I know.
And hit the potholes, right?
I do, unfortunately.
But my concern is we have so much depth of expertise in the city,
Yeah.
right? We have people that we pay who are very well qualified and very experienced, and they're experts on Spokane Valley. So I understand that sometimes an outside consultant can have value, but at the same time, is it possible for us to task our own very talented, already employed colleagues to do a study and make some recommendations? Not that it would necessarily come out different, I don't know, but it would come out cheaper.
I can't disagree. I have been known to criticize the fact that we use consultants for everything, and most of our consultants, the last one that we had a report from, ended the report with a recommendation to get another consultant. So you see how this turns into a
cascade.
Yeah, and if you look through the history of Spokane Valley, you can see that we have spent millions and millions of dollars on successive consultants for different things. A good example is the city logo. We have hired now 12 separate consultancies from 2 companies.
Isn't it still the same though?
Yeah, it sure is. But we've paid them an unending amount of money
And
to
I
keep
gotta
coming back with new ideas for what the logo should be.
I love it.
Wow, I'll design a logo for you.
And
I
then
got
the city,
Canva.
the city
The logo we have is so good.
we pay the consultancy, and then they come and they give us a presentation of what the logo should look like, and then the city council sits back and says, very interesting. Let's do another consultancy to see how else you might think.
That's just ragingly incompetent on every level. I can't even believe it.
Well, I mean,
Messaging is important. Iconography is important.
I'm not here to knock down every aspect of things. I mean, look, the truth is there are many different aspects of a city, and sometimes a piece can get away from everybody. It happens. You know what I mean? Like to understand how many different things that are happening at the city in any one particular moment, to conceptualize that and to be able to track that and to be able to make sure that every single one of those things is being handled in the utmost, best, and efficient way, I think is a difficult task. I personally think that we could do better. But
it's worthy pursuit.
I think that
I
there.
think it's a mandate, really.
I agree. I agree, and I think that there. Like I say, I'm not trying to make excuses here. I'm just trying to put out the facts.
It just comes down to, though, in order for us to have a better government, we have to start with a better culture.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've
agree.
been in situations in which, my skill set, oftentimes I'm looked at, to say, okay, we're going to bring you in as a consultant to look at something. And as a small business owner, I'm always conscious of, yes, I need to survive, I need to thrive. But I also interact with so many that I know that as soon as they say it's a government thing, they start adding zeros.
Yeah.
It's the same work.
That's right.
But they just add an extra zero because it's on the public dime.
That's right.
And again, I go back to my fundamental question, which is, how do we as the people begin to change this mindset of saying public money that we pay is to serve the whole public and is not a feeding trough where all the private businesses, if I can get a public contract, I'm set.
They're slow to pay. Flash. To get that check.
Right, but the thing is they will pay every time, all the time. They might be slow, but it's coming. I think that that's a great question. So if you guys remember earlier about people are discontent with things, it's our job as politicians to provide solutions. So I do have a solution for that. So for me, let's describe the problem a little bit deeper, because the real problem that we're talking about is that if you're in a company, okay, you're a private company, and you decide to waste millions of dollars on your logo, right? What's going to happen eventually? You're going to run out of money, and then the company's going to close, right? And that'll be the end of it, right? The problem with government is
It never closes.
we never run out of money, right? I mean, this is like a mine where the gold is bottomless at the bottom, and all we have to do is just keep digging deeper if we want more money, right? We're like, oh, we just need to pay for this bridge. Just dig a little more. Just empty your pockets just a little bit more. There's always more out there,
But do we want to spend that more on a flag?
Right. Well, the point is that I think that what we need to do is to be more considerate about how we approve projects. That is one of the things that I've tried to bring to Spokane Valley, that we should be looking at every single project in the same way that a private enterprise looks at a project, which means evaluating what are the input costs? What is it going to cost me to try and put this thing together? That should include what's the staff time involved? What's the consultancy involved? What's all this other stuff involved? We need to have a picture of what that is. And then what is the output gain, right? What are we going to get out of doing this project? So going back to our logo, right? Let's say we have the best logo that ever got designed by anybody ever. What's the city going to gain for that? Are we going to sell 10 more city widgets? Well, last I checked, we don't sell widgets. So,
Well, I think we sell an environment for business, and I think business wants to be in the best possible environment. And the business provides goods and services to the people who live here. It benefits all of us.
It's true.
And it pumps up the tax base, which benefits all of us.
It's true.
So I think those sort of messaging pieces are important. But as always, we have to be fiscally responsible. Again, we probably have talented designers working in the city already.
Yes, we do. In fact,
And maybe they could be tasked with, bringing some designs to a city council meeting.
That's true. So far, they recommend consultancies, but I agree. And, like you say, I mean, I'm not saying that having a logo is useless. What I'm saying is what is the actual return, right? We should quantify that. We should be able to say.
I don't know if you can.
I think you can.
It's a visual art.
I think that businesses do it. Government can do it, right? Businesses quantify what their logos are worth, what their logos bring, what the value of their logos are. I think we can.
Because they're selling things. It's a different.
That's true. But so are we. Going back to what you were saying, right? We're selling a good business environment. So we can quantify by going to our local businesses and prospective businesses and ask, how important is our logo to you? And if they come back and say, it's not that important, oh, yeah, there you go. You know what I mean? And
I
that
don't know
can be
that they
done.
would understand from a government point of view. They would be looking at it from a small business point of view.
Which is, to me, again, if we're trying to bring businesses in, it's their point of view that matters, not ours.
But I don't think they see quite the same big picture that someone in government would be seeing. We're providing services to the whole city.
Right.
They're providing services to a customer base, much smaller.
True.
Much
True.
more focused, much more narrow.
Don't disagree. I just think that, as a group, right, if we are able to survey them as a group, which we can, again, we have the resources to do it, we have the staff to do it, we have the ability.
Right here. Look around the table. Everyone here is a small business owner. Let's ask John first.
How important is the city logo?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. No, this is good stuff. And Lisa, I love that you always are like, let's do it. Let's start it now. And I think that is one thing that we always want to create here is there is a sense of urgency. And in this case, talking about whether you live in Spokane Valley, we have one that's sitting and one that's hopefully will be soon sitting here in the room. And I think the same thing we're hearing from both of them is reach out, communicate, ask questions, email, phone calls, text, show up at the meetings. And even as I'm saying this, I'm asking myself, am I willing to take that step? Am I willing to show up?
But you drive the conversation every week right here at Action.
I do, and that is actually switching gears to a call to action. One of the things that we promote here is be a part of the conversation. This is not a city council meeting. This is just business owners talking, but this is important stuff. And whether it's government, whether it's how to grow your business, how to, in fact, good opportunity for me to tease out. Next week, Kelsey's gonna be here talking about imposter syndrome. And so whether you're in government, whether you're a business owner, Debbie and I talked about this week, we got together. It is tough.
Yeah.
It is tough to show up. I'll tell you, sitting here, hosting this meeting, I feel it. Like, oh man, like I'm not, like so many more smart people at this table than me. Like, how dare I?
None of us is hosting anything.
How dare I elevate myself to, right? It's just like, it creeps in and it can be very debilitating.
Right.
And so, I want to encourage people to show up next week. Kelsey, in fact, we're going to release, this is the first time we're doing it. She and I filmed a podcast beforehand.
Oh, nice.
Was just kind of like us talking one-on-one about the topic. So we'll be releasing that soon, so you can kind of get a tease of what it's going to be about. And then we'll actually have the conversation here at the table. But back to what we're talking about here, call to action, go find out, where does your city council meet and when?
That's right.
Show up to just one meeting, just show up. And if I can picture several faces in my mind, including mine, of just like, I know what it's gonna be like. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but show up, just,
Even if it's just for the comment section.
Yeah.
Comments happen right at the beginning of the meeting. You can do it there. You can also, every municipality here in our local area makes their meetings available online.
Yeah.
You can, and to my knowledge, everyone except for Liberty Lake allows you to participate. No, that's not true. Liberty Lake changed it too. They all allow you to participate online also. And again, if you don't want to sit through the rest of the meeting, that's perfectly fine. We have Spokane Valley, we have a comment section at the beginning of the meeting and a comment section at the end of the meeting. If you want to just say something about what's going on and then take off, that's perfectly okay.
And also, I just want to say, Councilmember Merkel's always there, and I'm always there.
Yeah.
So that's two faces right there.
Yeah.
And,
I'm
and
sitting in the
if,
front row, and you're on the dais.
That's right.
You can't miss us. We're like bookends.
and also remember, there are scales to the government as well.
That's right.
So in Spokane, I don't know about Spokane Valley, but in the Spokane, there are neighborhood councils.
There are.
And the neighborhood council is another step into that, because those neighborhood councils, like in mine, West Central, it's business owners and other interested parties in that neighborhood.
I would say come say hello.
Yeah.
Right? Come say hello to one of us. We take a break in the middle of the meeting, and all of the council members circulate, so you can always waylay somebody somewhere.
I'll be in orange.
Yeah. So there you go. You got your homework. We will see you guys next week. Mike, tell us what we need to know.
Did you learn something? I think you did, and that's called value. And because of that, remember that sharing is greater than or equal to caring. That's the math for today. Sharing is greater than or equal to caring. Be sure to hook up Al with some page ranking. Check out all of his links in the video description, and we will see you next time, folks. Bye!
Thank you all for being here. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for hosting.
We will see
This is
you
very
all
dynamic as always.
with Kelsey next week.